Do you know what the number one most asked business question on the entire planet is? The number one most asked question in a business environment. You know what it is, but you're going to be overthinking this. So let me just short circuit this for you. The number one question that is always asked in a business environment, and actually personal as well. But today, let's just focus on business. Although personal, it has the same impact. The number one most asked business question on the whole planet. What do you do? Seriously, that's the question. So, what do you do? It is the great opening question. People have been asking it for generations, and they will continue to ask it for generations. I ask it, you ask it. We all do when we want to open a conversation. We say, so, what do you do? And maybe the second most asked question is, what brings you here? But we're going to park that one for right now. So, what do you do? Now, here's the challenge. This is the greatest question in the world because at that point, we have to make a decision. Do we answer this question in a way that turns people off? They automatically make a decision, they automatically click into what their own beliefs are based on how you answer that question? Or does your answer to the question actually promote curiosity? So, what do you do? Now, when you go to answer that question, if you default and lose the moment and answer with your title, where you work, how long you've been there, anything that isn't immediately identifiable to the person that you're speaking to, you've lost them. In other words, let me put it this way. Titles don't matter. Sorry. Hey, listen, we all work really hard for our titles, but the problem is they mean the most to us, not to the person who's actually potentially curious about what you do. Because that question, what do you do, is the question that could lead you to your next great relationship, business deal, friendship, whatever. But we have to spark curiosity when people ask us that question. And if you lose the moment by defaulting to something that doesn't resonate with the person you're speaking to, likely you will never get that back. So here's the key: your answer has to be what I call neutral or agnostic. In other words, do not say anything that gives people the reason to say, "Oh, I know what that is," or "I don't need one of those," or "Well, that scares me," or whatever. When people ask me what I do, I can say I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a YouTuber. I could say all of that. The problem is that automatically triggers people's biases. It's like you say, if I'm a CPA or I'm an accountant, which is the same thing, I understand, or I'm a chiropractor or I'm a banker. People, if they have no reason to be more curious about that or more curious, they're going to say, "Oh, that's nice. I have a banker, I have a CPA, I've got a chiropractor, I've got a psychiatrist," whatever. You see, people already have a belief about titles. And if we use our title and somehow think that that's going to promote curiosity, guess what? You've already lost the moment to build a relationship. So, what do you do? And this is also known as your value proposition. What do you do has to be something that is neutral, is agnostic, promotes curiosity, makes people say, tell me more, or at least it gets them talking because the human attention span is so freaking short right now. We really don't have the time to waste with stuff people don't care about. Hi, my name is Todd Cohen. I'm a senior account manager, level 4, 1032, pod 17, company number 12. Huh? What the heck did you just say? I still have no idea what you do. So, when people ask me what I do, they're asking for my value proposition. When they ask me what I do, it's very simple. I simply say, everyone's in sales. And that immediately triggers people's stories and horror stories and every bad sales experience they've ever had. It doesn't matter because it opens up conversation. And that's the key. You see, your value proposition, your what do you do answer is your golden one time, one shot opportunity to sell yourself. And if you say to people, something that does not resonate with them, the conversation grinds to a halt. I mean, you might talk for a few more minutes and they're going to glaze over and they're going to be like, uh huh, uh huh, uh huh. Well, that's interesting. And then they're going to go, oh my gosh, when can I get away from this person? So when someone asks you, what do you do? And by the way, you better be really good at this because there's no, central universal edict that says, stop asking this question. People will always ask this question. What do you do? Must be neutral, must be agnostic. It must be something that creates interest and curiosity in the mind and the ears of the person you're speaking to. Hey Todd, what do you do? Hey, I believe everyone's in sales. Really? That's interesting. I do too, but I got to tell you, I had the worst experience, with a car that I bought recently. And then what I'll say is, well, I don't really do conventional sales training, and I agree with what you're saying because what I do is help people get over the negative stereotype of selling so they can sell themselves. And now I have an open conversation. Now there's an opportunity for me to take what I do to a different place with that person. In other words, I've stoked their curiosity. It allows them to be curious. It allows me to be curious. Next thing I know, guess what? We have a conversation. Instead, I could have said, well, I'm a sales trainer. Well, you know where that's going to get me, right? Ugh, oh yeah. And they're going to have all kinds of very quick, short, negative reaction, potentially. Or I could say, I'm a speaker. And, when you say you're a speaker, people go, yeah, 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 I can do a PowerPoint presentation as well. I'm a speaker too. Okay. Or I could say, I'm an author, but you know what? Yeah, I've written 4 books. And you know what? Who cares? I mean, today, pretty much anybody can write a book. Now, I'm not taking away anybody's accomplishment of publishing a book because it's a big deal. It takes a lot of work, but it doesn't necessarily stoke the kind of curiosity we need. And I've learned this firsthand. You see, in 2007, I was working for an organization where I was a senior vice president of sales. Well, that in a quarter got me a cup of coffee because one day they said something to me that really hurt my feelings. You're fired. Well, I wasn't fired. I was strategically realigned to better align their talent, blah, blah, blah. I was shown the door. And what I realized is when I went into the world in 2007 and then 2008, when the Great Recession hit, was when people asked me what I do, that was my one and only golden opportunity to sell myself because there were so many people out of work back then that I had to be heard above the noise. And that's the key right there, folks. Write it down. You can't sound like everybody else. What do you do? I'm a banker. Well, okay. What does that mean? Or I have a bank, or I like my bank. Good talking to you. Oh, I'm a, whatever. I mean, you can't abdicate the moment that might play in, excuse me, you can't abdicate the moment and give an answer that would play into somebody's biases that will shut down the conversation. What do you do is the number one most asked business question on the planet. Your answer must be agnostic. It must be neutral. It must not contain anything that I can't identify with. It must drive curiosity. So, in the next video in this particular little 2 video arc on my YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit subscribe and notify, I'm going to tell you how to find your value proposition because it's a whole lot easier than you think. Remember, what do you do? It doesn't matter what you think you do, it matters what people think that you do and how they see value to them. Stay tuned, more coming. Hey, thanks for checking in on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. What do I got to do? Reach through the screen and take your finger and hit the button? Don't put it past me.